Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/253, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net, or call me, or text me. You could text me at 202-930-1109. I guess you could call me, but I won't answer. Just text me, 202-930-1109, and check Pedal Shift out also on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 253rd edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name is Tim Mooney, still, and you can still text me. This is day 2 of the Green Goblin retirement tour. And if you can tell I'm a little bit punchy, it's because, frankly, I just re-listened to that day. And day 2 was kind of a weird day. Day 2 of the tour revealed a larger problem with the Goblin. Straight up. It was kind of the day that defined the rest of the tour. I was supposed to make it to Newport, Oregon, and my favorite campsite on the entire coast, South Beach State Park. But would the bike get me there? Pedal Shift Society folks, you get a bonus episode. Between this week's episode and next week's episode, check your email, because you are going to be getting the bonus episode that I recorded between the two installments. And it was especially for you, recorded in a special place, and gives a little bit more insight as to what was going on between the 2 days. Consider it day 2.5. All right, everybody, let's go back to the Oregon coast.
Good morning. From outside of Pacific City, Oregon, and about 7 miles from Nesquin, Oregon. This is day 2, and a pivotal day 2, based on how my bike is behaving. It's still janky, but not as janky as it was. Now, the question is, in the next 45 miles, is it going to get worse or kind of maintain? I think it's rideable, just not super enjoyable. So at the moment, the safe and responsible thing would be ride this to Newport, stay in Newport until the bike shop opens on Tuesday, and see what they can do. Caveat: I'm not sure if they're going to have what this bike needs, because my instinct is that there is something wrong with the more unique elements of this bike. And I think that I may find that I wait and have them say, it's a 2-day wait for parts. And then I'd be like, shrug. So that, because I truly believe that's how it would end up going, I think there's a piece of me that's sort of like, you know what? If the Goblin can limp me to where I need to go, and as long as it's safe, then maybe I just put up with it. I think this happens almost every time I ride this bike, which is another reason why I always talk about how much I love this bike until I ride it, and then I'm like, this bike. It might also be one of those things that I get used to as I ride, and the rhythms of it skipping a gear and all that other stuff is something I just kind of learn to live with. The thing that I don't like, and the thing that I would really love to be able to fix, is occasionally what happens is the chain sort of, for lack of a better word, seizes, and I get to the point where it is sort of jammed in between the, see, I should know these parts by now, right? Basically between the pedal crank and the cage there. And, if I'm going too hard on it, it certainly could bust the chain. So there's a variety of problems with that. So I think that it's just me trying to figure out and assess. And by the way, that doesn't happen very often. And it tends to only happen in slow uphill kind of scenarios, which is a bad time for it, for sure. But, at least this is not happening where it's catastrophic kind of fail in a situation where it's hard for me to control, like a big long downhill. The other thing that I would say is it's very easy to correct. As soon as I feel it jam, I just backpedal and it's fine. Until the first time it doesn't, I suppose. But in any event, I've put in probably 4 or 5 miles already. And the middle chain ring is the one that seems to have the most problems. And when I gave it a good look last night, it does look like one of the teeth is either bent or damaged in some way. And I think that that's probably the culprit. So if that is one of the things, and the rest of it can be handled by just a good cleaning, then stopping and waiting for Tuesday certainly makes sense. It is unfortunate, most bike shops in my experience tend to be open on Sundays. They tend to be closed 1 day a week, and if they're closed 2 days a week, it's Monday, Tuesday. And that has been a continuing problem for me with this particular bike shop, which is an amazing bike shop. They do so many good things for tourists, but being closed on a Sunday has always been a problem for me, just because that's generally when I'm in Newport. So I'm going to have to figure this all out. And, maybe what I'll do is get to Lincoln City and kind of assess from there. The ride here this morning is very beautiful. The fog burned off very quickly. I woke up probably about 5:30, and the tent was, lit up and everything. I slept like a rock last night. It was really a fantastic sleep. New tent. I have a relatively new sleep kit. The pad I've had for a little while. I have toured on that at least once. The sleeping bag was phenomenal, really good, perfect temperature rating for what I'm doing right now. A little warm even, but fine. And the new tent, it's the same tent, just is different color. Decided to eschew the orange this time, which makes me a bad orange person, I suppose. But I have it on everything else I have, so I think we're going to be okay. So, like I said, great sleep. Fog burned off. Still cool. It's not going to be any warmer than the low 60s today. But the sun is very strong. And I noticed this on my trip in La Crosse, how strong the sun has been out west here. So I'm going to be applying sunscreen on my neck and face and wearing longer sleeves as much as I can. I do have but I was actually quite warm yesterday, so the long sleeve wool sweater was just too much. So I've got a short sleeve on, and I've got sun sleeves that I can put on. Right now I've got my rain jacket on. We are approaching one of my favorite things. I don't know, I think this is the Nesquin River, and there is a downed, sunken dory. I think it's a fishing boat, but it's really old. It has been here for as long as I've been biking, so 10 years, and it's the Simon is the name of it, and I usually grab a picture of it, so I think I'm going to do that now. Check out the show notes. It may even be there. I've been doing a bad job of taking photos on this trip so far, so I definitely need to do better. All right, there we go. Very picturesque spot. Been seeing some folks on bikes. Not a lot of tourists. Just seeing some folks on bikes right now, but they are not tourists, so I will say hello. Hi. I spoke with a European couple, and I am guessing on European just based on accent. May have been German or somewhere in that area. They spoke such good English that their accents were difficult to spot. So there's my compliment. They were going southbound. They had a lost wallet situation. So they had gotten a late start, and they intended to go further. And that was smart on their part, because I was like, oh yeah, just stop in Pacific City. Everything's cool there. Well, we would have all ended up at the same camp spot, I suppose. And I think that probably would not have been very good for their trip, because they wanted to make some miles and then do a 0 day today. So I think that they may be at Devil's Lake in Lincoln City if they stuck to plan. But I asked them if they had been seeing many people out in the campgrounds, and they said no. So I think that's probably going to answer my question about, how many companions and campsites am I going to have in hiker bikers? The answer is going to be very few. Last night there were plenty of people. Well, plenty. There were probably a half a dozen different campsites being used. Tillamook County is doing an every other campsite thing. They're still doing a social distancing thing, which is probably another reason why I wasn't able to get into the other one. So the consequences, not as many, more higher demand, it seems like, for fewer campsites. But in any event, I didn't really interact too much with folks. I'm always a little bit reticent to strike up conversations with folks that are not cyclists. I feel like that the etiquette on that is a little bit different, especially when there are groups. There was one group of women, and so it reminded me of the episode that I just recently posted with Silva, and just feel the energy. It's just sort of like, okay, yeah. I said hello this morning, but didn't approach. Because I didn't feel that was the energy they were giving off. So, utilizing my lessons from past and from being confirmed from that show. So, and then I talked to some other folks, a couple with kids that have a job offer in DC that they're mulling over, which I thought was kind of fun. I said, I thought I was the only one to ever move from Oregon to DC. You might be the second. That's not true. It just feels like it sometimes. One of the nice elements here in Tillamook County, well, nice. I like the picturesqueness of it, but there's a sinister side with dairy farms. We'll leave that off. But the cows are just beautiful, dumb creatures that love to stare at you on a bike. And this is the climb after Nesquin is at the summit is the line between Tillamook County, very dairy oriented, and Lincoln County, which starts to get you into the much more tourism as a economic engine part of the coast. There, of course, is also timber, which has a variety of interesting socioeconomic elements to it, which I'll leave for you to discover and to listen to other podcasts about. I am loving this stretch of the ride. This is probably one of my favorite days of riding. It's very picturesque. It doesn't have a ton of challenge to it, but it's also not boring in terms of the terrain that you get. It's actually kind of the perfect day to test out this bike. Interesting that I just realized when I said the word bike, I'm like, oh, these gears haven't given me any problems in the last few minutes. So that's actually kind of a good thing. I think, well, you'll learn more in a relative matter of minutes. It's going to take me hours to make my decision based on how this bike ends up behaving. But, if it does kind of work going up some of these hills, I don't see any reason why I don't just sort of deal with it and get this old bike back to the East Coast for a proper farewell. About to enter Ore Town, and blink and you'll miss it in the vehicle. It is, I think, a church, a tree farm, and a couple of billboards, and that's about it. The book mentions no services, and that remains the case. As we do a little bit of a slight hill, teeny hill, on our way to Nesquin. Well, in any event, I think I'm going to leave it at that for the morning report. I'm sure I'll check in later in the afternoon with some more information on how this bike is behaving. It's skipping gears again, but you know what? That's going to be how it is, at least till Newport, if not beyond. More to come. Just on the other side of Nesquin. Again, pardon me for my throat clearing. Of course, I have my music on complete shuffle. I don't know what it is about podcasts lately, but I have just not been interested in anything anybody has been releasing amongst my favorite shows. No idea why. So I have my entire music collection on my iPhone, and I've just been saying shuffle all songs, and it's been an interesting melange of things, including the hip-hop classic Let Me Clear My Throat. Say, I would eventually get back to clearing my throat. I am about to embark on the first measurable climb of the trip. I am at a couple of spots of note that I tend to stop at frequently. There's a little kind of grill next to a resort town in Nesquin where there's the end of the barrier between basically the resort and Highway 101. At the very end there is right outside their kitchen, and I just like to sit on it and eat and drink something with caffeine in it before I tackle this hill. It's not a big hill. It's certainly not the biggest hill I'll have this entire trip, but it's the first one of note. So I like to feel very hydrated and very fed going into it. It's only maybe about 13 miles or so, maybe 14 miles to Lincoln City from here. But this is a slow haul going up here. It's also, of course, not to belabor the point, but it's going to be a bit of a test for the bike to see how well it can climb. It was climbing some smaller hills much better, but then I was fiddling with the barrel adjuster, and I think I screwed that all up. So we'll see how that all goes. It is doing the same thing with the rear derailleur and the tensioner, and it's no bueno. I don't know how this is going to all end up shaking out. But we're going to tackle it nonetheless. I'm just taking a look right now. All the stuff is clean, but it's a little on the greasy side. So I may clean the chain or try to remove a little bit more of that residue before I hit it. This little spot where I'm at right now is this little turnoff. It does look like it's a private logging road of some type perhaps, but it's not... does not appear to be too big of a deal to be here. I'm looking for my dirty sock that has become an oil rag essentially for this trip and others. Have I cleaned it recently? Nah. Why would I do such things? Let's see. It is buried probably in my least accessible pannier is what I'm thinking, because that's how I do. But this is also a good pee break spot. Sorry to expose you to that. One other thing of note, I have now seen more northbound people than southbound people, which is crazy. The only southbound folks I've seen so far, other than me, of course, is that couple that I spoke of, I think, in the last segment. But there was a trio coming northbound. That's the second group going northbound that I've seen, which is, as I have mentioned, highly unusual for this trip or this area. But everybody seems in good spirits, and I'm going to stop mentioning the wind to them because nobody seems to care. Nor should they. So just kind of removing some excess here, hoping that maybe that's it. But the reality is, it's this chain tensioner. I think that it is in need of a cleaning or more likely complete replacement, because that's what's creating the issue. I may
take advantage of being in Lincoln City and go to a see, it's interesting. Just watching it as I do it backwards. There's either some chain links or there's something in this mechanism that is causing it to kind of just hesitate, and that's what's creating some of these issues. But hopefully this is going to at least make it behave a little bit better. Yeah, one thought that I had is to get some WD-40 and really clean out the mechanisms in there and then re-lube again. Because as we all know, WD-40 is not a chain lubricant. Quite the opposite, in fact. So that's another possibility. And the nice thing about a small can of that is it's relatively inexpensive. I've got room for it, and I can liberally kind of spray in there and see if that does anything. But until then, I'm stuck with what I got. And I'm hoping that this climbs without skipping. Because if it does that, then I think that things are good. If it doesn't, well, it'll just be annoying. It's moving. It's fine. It's fine. I keep saying this because it's fine. All right, up we go. Breaking news. So here's the good news. I have now figured out what the problem is. Here's the bad news. It is a bent link in the chain, perhaps two. And the question ends up being, will I be able to replace this without a bike shop? And I think that the answer may be no. If memory serves, this is a 9-speed. And I'll have to check, but now I know exactly what's going on, why the thing is popping and all of that. And now this starts to become more of a safety thing. I had mentioned Nesquin. There is a bus stop back there, and I can grab a bus to Lincoln City from there. And I'm now seriously considering it, because this is something that every single time it goes through the gears, it's going to grind them down a little bit, all of them. It's because it's just not going to sit right in those gears. This is the problem. And I'm glad I finally figured it out. And it's very visually obvious. All right, I think that's what I'm going to potentially do. Check the bus schedule and see what's going on, because by far the closest bus station is literally behind me, like less than a mile. So more to come.
Hello from Chinook Winds Casino and Convention Center in fabulous Lincoln City, Oregon. Okay, so here's the deal. The chain is toast, and I think that riding on it for any significant distance will risk more expensive and harder to fix elements of the bike. I think that the rest of the chain rings and whatnot are probably fine for purposes of this ride. At least that's what I'm hoping. However, I am skeptical that I'll be able to find a chain, or even if I could get it looks like that there might be a chain repair kit at a Walmart in Newport. I've had a little bit of time to take a look, and I'm not real convinced that I've got the patience or the ability to make I'll throw in quotes, permanent fix for this that I'll feel comfortable with. So where does that leave me? The only real bicycle shop for essentially the remainder of my ride is in Newport. The Fabulous Bike Newport. Downside, as I mentioned, they are closed today and tomorrow. So they do not open until Tuesday at 10 a.m. There are 2 campsites that are relatively close to it, within about 5 miles, that I can go to. My favorite, South Beach State Park. Also Beverly Beach State Park, also an excellent place to be. I prefer South Beach. So I'm going to spend the next couple of nights in Newport, because I do think that I would like this bike to be looked at by competent bicycle mechanics, which I am not one of them. So the trip changes as a result, but it changes in a way that, assuming that the bike can get fixed first thing in the morning there, and I can be rolling out of there at a reasonable hour, like a few hours later, I should be back on track to be able to ride really a good chunk of the coast by myself, and get an effort on the final day for a little bit of mileage, depending on which direction I want to go and how things are going. It is conceivable that I could make up the mileage by just doing longer days in the saddle. I'm not sure if I necessarily want to do that, but the way that this is looking at right now is, okay, give up the ghost on the fact that I'm going to be riding for the next couple of days. Enjoy the heck out of the coast. Enjoy some time in Newport. I will probably be hoofing it more than I will be biking it, just to keep the wear and tear off of the other components of the bike. So I will be doing that. And if I am at South Beach State Park, the challenge will be I have to come up a very large incline to get back up and over Yaquina Bay to get to the bike shop. So I'd be basically pushing it. Or I could grab the northbound bus from... I guess it's Lincoln County. Is that Lincoln County? That's still Lincoln County. So that's another possibility. I could just bus it, like I've been doing, and that's been working out just fine. So I am going to assess my options as best I can. My original plan for a little while in here was to get off at this Walmart and see if I could get a chain, but as I mentioned, I think the best I could get is a chain repair kit, and I'm worried that if I break that chain and I can't get it rejoined properly, which is always a possibility with me, that I would then have essentially a push bike, and I think that that's kind of a terrible thing for me at this point. So, pretty catastrophic issue and just bad timing. I do have some things to fix this, but I just don't trust myself given given what's going on here. Normally, the types of things that I've talked about in the emergency chain fixing situation is you fix it so you can get to a bike shop, so that you can ride like just a couple of miles to get to a bike shop. So I'm going to be within a couple of miles of a bike shop, but it's just not feeling right to me at the moment. If you got a chance to take a look at the picture of the link, I've already gotten a few comments from folks saying, I have never seen that before. And neither have I. I've never seen a single link twisted like that. But boy, it just answers all the questions right there. So I'm kind of surprised that it took this long for it to really show its problems. So I just wonder if some additional heavy riding on it has created some more issues. So I think I'm going to take this real easy over the next couple of days and just hope that nothing more catastrophic happens, because it does get worse and worse over time, and it all makes sense now. So I'm going to be waiting for a little bit while here in this bus shelter, hence the weird audio, for the bus that will take me to Newport, and then I've got a short ride/coast from Newport to South Beach State Park, and I will probably have a nice long walk to Brewers on the Bay. Normally a few minute bike ride, but instead it'll probably be like a nice 40-minute walk, and I'll camp there for a couple of nights, and we will just kind of do the podcast about maybe the coast a little bit more. And I'll just have to figure out how I'm going to spend my Monday. And Yeah. The guy, one of the folks who was on the bus was like, wow, you've got a really good attitude about this. And meanwhile, inside I'm screaming, no, I do not. I do not have a good attitude about this. But maybe I do. I mean, I could be in so many worse places. This could be south of here. If I was south of here and this happened, I'd have to double back and take a bus northbound. You know, it would be really problematic. But just kind of doing the bus math, as I like to put it, does allow me to, again, assuming that there isn't something more problematic with a bike, and all I've got to do is have a mechanic take off this chain, replace the chain, just kind of run it through, make sure everything's cool. If that's all it is, if that's going to get me to Brookings, Oregon, then I'm in pretty good shape. I'm still going to be able to ride most of the coast, and it's just kind of a bummer that, you know, this stretch between Pacific City and Newport is not going to be one of them, and I'm probably going to have to skip some other section of the coast, most likely the section between either Port Orford or Gold Beach and Brookings, just depending on kind of the timing of things. There is a bus, there are 3 buses on Friday, morning, afternoon, and early evening, that I could take that gets me to Brookings, and that's great, except for the whole thing that's Friday, and no, that doesn't work. I just did this wrong in my head. I'm going to have to go back and do some math. I just realized, no, Friday I have to be in Medford. I have a bus Friday morning, not Saturday morning, but Friday morning, so I'm going to have to figure this all out again. Bus math. It's hard. More to come. All right. A little bit of bus math there. So Thursday is the day that is my last riding day. Effectively. Not effectively, it is. So Thursday, I would be at Sunset Bay, and I can do the Seven Devils, which, thank goodness, I can do the Seven Devils. That actually is potentially, depending on how much time I want or need on the Brookings side, I can either grab the latest, let me do it this way. The latest bus that I can comfortably grab, no, let me try that again. The latest bus I can grab that will work would be in Port Orford, Oregon, at 4:40 p.m. on Thursday. That would represent very close to the full second to final day ride of the coastal route. Essentially what's happening is, because I'm having to take a 0 day, I'm losing a day of riding, and I think I'm choosing that final day to be the lost day, which is probably a good way to do it. So I can either stop in Bandon immediately after the Seven Devils and grab either the noonish bus and get down there, or I can continue riding if I can comfortably get to Port Orford by 4:40 p.m. and probably closer to 4:30 or 4:15 or 4 o'clock, just because of who I am and how I am. Because if I can do that, then I can grab that bus and I will be in Bandon right before 6 o'clock, which is perfect. That's exactly what I would need. So all will work. It is I'm very fortunate that these systems exist. I'm very fortunate that this seems to be something that can work out. I do have to have it in the back of my head, however, that if this is not an easy fix, that it's entirely possible that the tour is over before it started. I'm only going to voice that so that I can jinx it, so that it doesn't happen. Because if this is something that is, obviously the chain is a huge deal, but if the chain is a symptom of a larger problem, it may be that this is just not a rideable situation, and then basically I have to throw in the towel and essentially get myself back another way. So I hope that's not the case. I hope that I have the capability to get back, and I think that's basically it. More to come, although I'm starting to think, what if I went back to Portland and got to a bike shop today? No. Well, it would be quicker than Tuesday, wouldn't it? If I went back to Portland, which I think is still possible, although I missed the bus that takes me back to Tillamook just now. All right, okay, more bus math. This is the strangest podcast ever, but more bus math. Hold on. Good afternoon from Newport, Oregon. I cannot wait for the weekend to be over. Holy moly, the traffic, just the congestion here on the coast. It's much more than I'm used to. And again, I've been here on plenty of weekends, but boy, it is super extra this fine weekend. So here is the deal. I'm actually at the Big 5 Sporting Goods, which is directly across from where the bus dropped me off. And a little bit of catch up. I decided not to pursue the go back to Portland or go to Corvallis or anything like that and try to get the bike repaired today. Just thought by the time I would get someplace, it just wouldn't work out. And then it was sort of like, okay, maybe I could get it repaired tomorrow, but then what? Then I have to get all the way back out here. So I've decided to kind of stick with the coastal options here. I was reminded by the bus driver coming down here that there is a bike co-op in Waldport, Oregon, which is about 15 miles south of here. And while there isn't a bus today, there are buses that go do the South County route tomorrow. So here is the plan. The plan was that Big 5 was going to have a bicycle chain and I was going to be able to do it, but no such luck. I have resigned myself to realizing that Walmarts, sporting goods stores, things like that don't carry bicycle equipment that includes bicycle chains these days, which is too bad, but it is where we're at. So now I'm going to put all my eggs, or at least half of my eggs, into the Waldport Co-op basket. I'm hoping that on Monday it is open. I will call first. I may even call today to see if they have any kind of hours. Their website does not show any hours. It's volunteer driven, so I don't know what to expect. But what I will say is this, that it is a relatively inexpensive venture on a day where I don't have much to do tomorrow. So to pack up, and I mean fully pack up, and then go down there, should it be open, I think that actually would be the best case scenario, because this is not a fancy bike chain. It's an 8-speed transmission, so a very regular bike chain is necessary. And if there is somebody there that can either do it or help me do it, this could be the quickest fix to get going. And I would actually not really lose any days at that point, which would sort of be the best case scenario. If, however, it is either not open or not available, or the fix doesn't work, I can easily turn right around, take the bus back up to Newport, up to South Beach State Park, spend a second night, and then get up in the morning, and then push my bike, probably, or ride it very gingerly back up over Yaquina Bay, and then go to Bike Newport. And they will assuredly have the ability to fix it and send me on my way. And at that point, I will end up having a much more compressed adventure, but I will have an adventure still. So one way or the other, this trip is happening. But it is, it's weird. It's like, it shows how the people who carry things like an extra chain, you kind of sit there and go, ha, 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 you don't need to do that. You just need a chain breaker, or you just need this or that. And that may be true. I'm realizing that if I had carried my full amount of stuff, I would have had an extra link, and I would have been able to fix or at least moderately repair the chain. But what I've discovered is what it really needs is a brand new chain. I could limp along with a repaired chain, but I wouldn't be able to do the trip really safely without getting a new chain in there. And so that's happenstance at this point. That's just bike shops, open times and availability and things like that. So if I'm lucky, the co-op will work out tomorrow. If I'm not, then I'm back to plan, I've already lost count, J, and Bike Newport, which they're pretty cool. And there would be nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that I would be missing out on certainly a lot of biking, but not the end of the world. So meanwhile, it's a gorgeous day. It's only 12:30 in the afternoon, give or take. So, I've got the opportunity to maybe kind of push around or gingerly bike around Newport here. Maybe consider picking up a couple of things just to kind of like make my afternoon a little bit more fun. I don't believe that I'll be able to check into South Beach State Park for at least a few hours, I would think. So I think I may be better off grabbing a small bite to eat. I massively have over-caffeinated myself. One nice thing I was able to get at the Big Five Sporting Goods, I was able to get a gas canister for my stove, which I thought I had in my handlebar bag in Kevin's garage, my brother's garage, but no such luck. So I was looking for one, and I stumbled upon one here. I wasn't quite looking for it, but now I'm glad I have it, because tomorrow morning I'll be able to make coffee in camp, and that will be a really good thing. I'll be able to make many coffees in camp, because who knows what time I will be going down to Walport. That's another thing I'm going to have to figure out. What a very strange tour this has been, but I will say, being in Newport is good. Being in Newport makes me happy. I do like this place. I'm going to have a fantastic dinner tonight. I'm going to have a beer or three at Brewers on the Bay, hopefully. And I think that this is where I was supposed to be today. In fact, probably several hours later after bicycling it. But I had to take the fast forward because that's was the best bet for me, and we'll just have to see what happens. I think from this point on, it is gingerly using the bike, making sure that I don't bust anything else, that I don't break the chain, make it a push bike, and try to breathe into it, relax, and realize I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now, and that this is all going to get resolved one way or the other. The worst case scenario is, I was able to get out to the Oregon coast and I biked a little bit and that's good enough for the moment. I hope I get to do more. All right, more to come on this very bike light day 2. From South Beach State Park. This is I think we're going to call this the end of day 2. I certainly have more evening left ahead of me, but I think that there's been plenty of jabber today. So here we go. Beautiful campground, foggy, breezy, just fantastic. The trip over the Aquina Bay Bridge was gusty, as you heard. But it was fine getting here, no problem. I think that I am leaning actually towards not doing the Waldport option tomorrow. I feel like that while it's entirely possible that they could find a fix for me, it's just a lot of moving parts to do it, and I have to be honest, if it were successful, it would make me a little bummed out. And here's why. I really like Newport. I really like South Beach State Park. And this trip is as much a vacation for me as anything else. And there's something to be said about really enjoying my time here. And I think that that's what I'm leaning towards doing. I may be very enthusiastic about that after a few beers at Brewers on the Bay, because it would mean I'd have a second night of doing that. But also just I like the nature of slowing down. The other thing that occurred to me was that this gives me an opportunity to do a fast forward in a different way. I could fast forward out of Newport as opposed to fast forwarding at the end of the trip. So I just like keeping my options open a little bit more, although clearly by choosing not to do the Waldport option, that closes the book on things. For the moment, I have only made a commitment to one night here at South Beach State Park. But, if I feel the way that I feel right now tomorrow morning, I'm going to make a cup of coffee, and I'm going to walk right down to the Rangers, or the check-in box, which is just over here, and just be like, yo, another $8, please. If memory serves, you're allowed to do 2 nights at any given Oregon State Park, maybe 3, but obviously 2 would be plenty, because what would happen then is 10 a.m. opening over at Bike Newport. So what I would do is I would get up in the morning at a reasonable hour, and I would look to get back to Bike Newport as quickly as I can, certainly before 10 a.m. Basically, I want to be outside when whomever is there is opening is there, and just be like, yo, need a new chain and maybe more. and time is kind of the essence. Help, that kind of a thing. So that's sort of where I'm at the moment. Also gives me an opportunity to go to Bike Newport, which I've wanted to do for years and just have never been able to, just because of the way their hours are and whatnot. So, in a strange way, maybe this was what was meant to be. One of the other elements to this particular Oregon State Park is I think I have to say it is the best of any of the ones that I've ever stayed at. Is the campground better? I mean, it's nice and flat. It's sandy. You can easily peg your tent into the sand. It's sand, but not sand. I don't know how to describe it, but the soil is very forgiving for staking in. But most importantly, there is a set of lockers with electric in each one, which is such a big deal for me. It just allows me to know that I'm fully charged up and ready to go. And I think with a couple of days here, that's just really nice that I know I'll leave here with my batteries as charged as they can be. And that's just kind of nice to have. There's also a tool stand over there that I'll certainly make sure that my tires are fully pumped up. Just the little things that I think are really helpful. And you can probably hear in the background a little soundscape. I hope you can hear it. There's the foghorn that's always going off, and just this is just quintessential Oregon coast camping. And I know if you've been with the show for any period of time and listen to me record here, that this is kind of a second home for me from a bike touring standpoint. I just love it. And and I get to take a hot shower too. That's always going to be a good thing. In fact, I probably should do that relatively soon, because I can take care of that and then go to dinner later on. I think I've decided to reduce the amount of wear and tear on the bike. It did ride here reasonably well. Every time that chain kind of clicks a bit, I know that it's kind of grinding at those gears a little bit more, and that's just not good. But it is mobile. It is effective. When I go back into Newport on Tuesday, if that's the choice that I make, I'll probably push it up the Yaquina Bay Bridge just to make double sure that I'm not putting too much pressure on things. And then I'll be able to ride it to Bike Newport from there, which is, I think it might be, it may be 3 miles from here, maybe a touch more. It's really not bad. Then I know everything will be looked at by a good pro, and everything will be taken care of in the right way. And frankly, what's the issue that happens here? Well, I bike fewer days on this trip, but I get to spend more time in a place that I really love. So that's pretty good. I don't think I have any complaints about any of that. So that's where I'm leaning at this point. Ask me tomorrow. I may be on a bus to Waldport by the time you hear me. Who knows? I think it just sort of depends on things. But my best guess is that I'm usually biking away from here, kicking and screaming. And I think that when given the opportunity to stay here an extra day, I'll probably take it. Particularly when the end point of that is I know it's going to a real bike shop with real materials and real parts. So that seems like a good idea. And then I'll know after it's looked at if it's a fixable thing, which I think it is, then I know that the bike will be in great shape for the rest of the ride. And that's going to be a little peace of mind as well for the next several days as I ride. All right. So, next episode, where am I going to be? I guess you're just going to have to wait till next week. And that's what we call a promo in the biz.
And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options. If you're not into the small monthly thing, check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lien, Andrew MacGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrance Manson, Harry Telgadas, Chris Barron, Mark Van Raam, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LoGreco, Cody Floerchinger, Tom Benenati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollack, Joseph Quinn, Byron Paterson, Joachim Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Avilés-Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Dan Gebhardt, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Tom Bilch, Ronald Piroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Letko, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCulloch, John Hickman, Jack Smith, Carl Presso, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Dave Fletcher, James Stratakis, David Neves, Mike Lazewski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponseller, Chad Reno, Daniel Greger, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, and Darren McKibben. And thanks also to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.